Coming up on this episode of Belief Hole.
For him, it was confirmed. He believes that this was a crawler. Humanoid, pale, nearly emaciated, long limbs, black eyes. Yeah, the crawler stuff, my gut reaction when I first started hearing about this stuff is just like creepypasta.
Remember we did a story once where there was a boy that saw it in the basement?
Well, that's the thing. The more reports we personally received, I started to think maybe there's something to this.
Why is it called a crawler if it's running?
Well, it's on all fours.
Oh, well, that's a...
Otherwise, it'd just be some weird guy. Naked.
That's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like straight out of a nightmare.
It's fascinating because, like, you could do that. If you were getting evicted, you had nowhere to go. You just say you left and then hide in the walls, and then there you are.
That sounds like the logical next step. I'm sure there are people that are just insane that do that kind of stuff. It's a very extreme thing to do.
Very extreme.
Live in someone's home without their knowledge.
First of all, it's highly illegal.
Is it?
Yeah.
And second of all, if someone caught you in there, you're dead. Like, if they have a gun,
It's true.
a lot of people would shoot you to death. Highly illegal.
Very bizarre.
Reminds me of that very sad story at Skinwalker Ranch where the dogs go off to chase that floating blue orb, and then the rancher goes out to find them, and they're basically melted pools of black oil or something.
What a bunch of alien dickoids.
Yeah. Well, it could have been self-defense. But
It'd be funny if there was a breed of alien called dickoids.
There will be. In this vast universe, I'm sure it's there somewhere. Alien dickoids.
My mother said that he had come across duendes, which are elves.
oh, yeah. The Duende are like the south of the border, little people elf type situation.
I love the stories down there because they do seem to be more intense in the way that, like, the supernatural beings or entities, this world's more available to them.
There's more energy.
Well, it's supernatural beliefs that are more widely had in that society. It creates almost this saturation of the ether with this belief that maybe entities can use to manifest.
They also have the most intense UFO experiences, I feel like. There's
Everything's down there, man. Chupacabra. I'm sure there's dogmen running around down there too.
Oh, yeah. Conspiracy.
Synchronicity.
Sasquatch.
Homunculus.
Alien races.
Satanism in Hollywood.
MK Ultra. Tartaria.
There's like a whole... I've been watching this one guy that...
Close the door, Ed.
Jeremy, close your door!
What's the...
Inner Earth Disagreements.
Ghost Dad.
I like that movie.
Dogman.
Bohemian Grove.
Corey Feldman.
Magicians are demons.
Specters and spirits.
Sleep
Summonings.
paralysis.
Strange disappearances.
Sky whale phenomenon.
Alternative history.
Shadow people.
Quiet, I'm trying to say words with the mouth. It's getting dicey out there. Poltergeists.
That's cool. Anunnaki.
What is the moon?
Elf towers. I would never talk about it. That's old. Y2K.
Cover-ups. Apocalyptic catastrophe. Vampire.
Well, hello. Welcome to the hole.
It's going to be a good one today.
It's a special day because today is a listener stories day.
Finally.
Got real, legit, weird, creepy, and some intense stories.
Back into the paranormal from the controversial secret societies.
Did a quick conspiracy break. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that.
We do have some good stories today, I believe.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. This is just a handful.
Smattering.
It's a smattering. It's a taster. When we first started the show, I couldn't wait for the day where we had like a pool of really interesting, unique, original, true listener stories to tell on the show. Just, stretching from the bizarre to the synchronistic,
To the otherworldly.
to finding shoes of a reptilian lizard person in your closet. All kinds of stories.
I don't remember that one.
Sorry, my brain's kind of gushy. But we have so many. And so we selected a handful, hoping that we can get through all these today. And we'll continue doing these. Hope our listeners like them because
Yeah, it's becoming kind of a regular thing.
Yeah, it's great. I love these episodes. It's almost hard at this point to just whittle down because there's so many good ones that are given to us. But today's going to be pretty righteous. We got crazy humanoid encounters. We've got alien abduction. And we've got your classic haunted experiences with little twists in there. It's going to be fun.
yeah.
And some are kind of heavy. So,
Yeah. One other thing I really appreciate about our listeners is some of our listeners definitely seem to trust us with some, I don't know, stories that seem fairly like
personal,
emotional,
Right.
and
It's like it feels good for them to get it off their chest,
yeah,
sort of thing.
I hope that we're providing that service.
Because we are open-minded here.
That's true.
And we believe what people say.
Right. And we hope that telling some of the more emotional stories can be cathartic and that we do it good. We know we do good service. We
Yeah.
do good service.
We do
All right?
good service.
We do it with respect and we appreciate you guys. And
We're pretty good.
We're pretty good, right, guys?
We're good people.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks to everyone who's written stuff in.
Yeah, it's, I think there are people, we've talked about this before, but I think there are people who don't have the good fortune of having anyone in their life that is open-minded to this kind of stuff. So it's hard to talk to people that are close to you sometimes.
And the weirder the story is, sometimes the harder it is for regular people to believe it.
Oh, for sure.
We believe it here. Keep sending them in. If you got something to share, send it on in.
I can tell you about my paranormal story that I had today.
This happened in between yesterday from when I saw
Yesterday morning.
Okay.
This happened.
Oh, is this the socks?
Yeah, so you don't need to stomp on my story every time I'm about to tell a story.
Spoil it.
Well, now we know.
I gave it a title.
We know the active object in the
socks. What a compelling title.
This is the story of the socks. So I grabbed socks from the clean sock drawer, right, as opposed to the dirty sock drawer. They were clean socks. I took them upstairs and got my shower all done and everything, which was fantastic. And then I got out and picked up my sock, and I was like, this is kind of
crusty.
It's hard, oddly hard. And then I look, and it's discolored. It's red colored, and it's hard and crunchy. And after taking it on and feeling the crunch in the sole of my foot, I pull it off and I smell it. It is not a clean sock.
Was it blood?
It was a dirty, bloody. It smelled like
bloody,
like someone. I don't know what foot it came from, but it was a dirty, bloody sock. I checked the other sock too, and also dirty, bloody.
That's not paranormal.
No, it was more just a warning for people that not every sock you pull out of the clean sock drawer is going to be a clean sock.
That was really lackluster.
That's just more gross and odd.
It was horrified me in the moment.
Well, yeah, so you don't know how it got there?
He left out some details. He was at mom and dad's house sitting because they're out of town.
Yeah.
So who knows, dad maybe rolled up a dirty sock.
I was like, these are clean. They're on the floor.
How much blood was there?
It was the whole sock. I mean, the whole front half of the sock.
The worst story.
It doesn't make any sense.
That was more just an anecdote. I was trying to make it more of like a,
fail.
I didn't mean to say paranormal. I guess it was a scary story that happened to me.
Do we ever tell our doppelganger story?
Nah, let's save it.
Okay.
Well, I don't need another dumb story.
We don't need another.
No, this one is excellent, but we will save it. I'm just surprised we haven't told it, but we will
Can
tell
we
it later.
just trade it for that sock story?
Just swap it out.
I thought it was a good lesson, though. Not everything in life that you think
is clean.
Just stop.
Right.
All right, let's go.
Jeremy's stories might not be great, but these from our listeners are pretty excellent stories. And the ones we carved out today are designed to intrigue,
titillate,
and horrify.
I didn't want to say titillate. I'm glad you did.
It's an underutilized word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cue scary sound.
Whoa, was there a monster growl in the thunder?
Yes.
Only you, John.
I know.
I
That's what sound designers do.
I thought the glass windows had blown out of my cabin. That's what I thought that was.
Another one?
Yeah, do another one.
Ooh. They're
That's gold.
outside.
Yeah. All right, I'm in the mood now.
All right, yeah, I am too. That helped.
So what's our first story, Chris?
Our first story comes from Jennifer Golden. And this is a story, Jeremy, that I think you were excited to, specifically for some reason, got really weirdly excited about. It kind of made me nervous. This is Humanoid Hitchhiker.
Okay, now you named it Humanoid Hitchhiker, but I'm not sure why Hitchhiker.
No one's driving a car, but it is along a roadside.
Okay.
So
this is a crawler story.
I like alliterations.
Oh, yeah, this one's creepy.
I found your podcast and have been binging it at work for the last few days, and I have a story for you. Actually, it's my husband Anthony's story. This took place probably 10 years ago in Livingston, Montana, about half an hour from where we live now. It was a summer night, and he'd just gotten off his shift at a local Dairy Queen. He was walking home when it happened. It was getting late, probably approaching 10 or 11, when he was passing by a park and some surrounding fields. Suddenly, he saw something moving from the corner of his eye. He didn't want to look, but of course he did. A gangly, pale thing was running on all fours, coming up fast next to him. Its body was gnarled and twisted to seem upside down, but with its head twisted upright. Anthony started bolting down the street, and this thing kept up with him the whole time, but never looked towards the road. It kept its head unnaturally turned towards Anthony, with black eyes and a wide grin, as it kept effortlessly parallel, still on all fours with Anthony, no matter how fast he ran. He ended up coming upon the neighborhood where he lived, and eventually the thing ran off. I actually was scrolling around Reddit a couple of weeks ago. I think it was actually on the crawler encounters on subreddit. I'm absolutely fascinated by the supernatural and cryptids, and I read the stories just to terrify myself. Anthony always called this thing a demon, but as I scrolled through that sub, Anthony was seeing depictions of what people saw, and he said,
That's exactly what I saw.
I kept scrolling, but for him it was confirmed. He believes that this was a crawler. Humanoid, pale, nearly emaciated, long limbs, black eyes.
Yeah, the crawler stuff, my gut reaction when I first started hearing about this stuff is just like creepypasta. Especially with a name like that, crawler. It's like Joss Whedon came up with the name.
Remember we did a story once where like there was a boy that saw it in the basement?
Right. Well, that's the thing. The more reports we personally received, I started to think maybe there's something to this.
Was that a personal story that we got, or was that something from Reddit?
If it is, it's because we related it to another story we had gotten on that Listener Stories episode before.
Oh, right, okay.
Why is it called a crawler if it's running?
Well, it's on all fours.
Oh, well, that's a...
Otherwise, it'd just be some weird guy. Naked.
So it's supposed to be something like a humanoid shape, I guess?
Yeah, here, I'll show you a picture, John. We'll have it in the show notes here.
That's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like smiling at you with its head turned to you and keeping up exactly at your pace.
Yeah, little
And
weirdo.
now, I mean, that's like straight out of a nightmare.
Right. One of the reasons why initially, these crawler, I want to pick a different name for them, but...
Well, the funny thing is they're very similar to the description of what people refer to as the rake.
That's another one that's
Another
just,
kind of cryptid. That
Yeah.
Supposedly there's a rake caught on camera.
I guess it's unfair of me to think just because it's something that's sort of a newer paranormal or cryptid type experience for people that it must be absolutely necessarily fiction.
Right.
So this is a rake captured on night vision camera. We'll have this in the show notes. I know, this looks a little...
I mean,
like
it
a
looks
Apex Twin
like
video.
real, I guess. I don't know anything about like Photoshop.
This is the thing is, I mean, these things are so hard to, supposed photos of these kinds of things are, like, it could be a guy...
Dude, I mean, that could be
emaciated.
I mean, no, I think that's, if that's a real picture, then that's creepy as shit. And that's probably...
If it's real, yeah, that's
Night
the
vision.
thing. Yeah.
That's the thing, is there's no way. I mean, that seems like it could be pretty easily created, right?
It reminds you of that Apex Twin video.
Yeah. Rubber Johnny?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have that in the show notes, guys. But yeah, essentially the crawler. I'm not sure the differences between the rake and the crawler, but they're both essentially kind of these emaciated, pale, gangly humanoid creatures that are found hairless, often seen on roadsides or, like the one story, the kid found him in the basement, like heard the banging and it was just like running from side to side in the basement.
Scary too.
It was pretty creepy.
Maybe they're interdimensional.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Like, what could these things be? If
Yeah.
people are really seeing these things. And, Jennifer definitely seems like a genuine person. I have to take her word that Anthony's, I mean, it sounds like he's a guy that's not into the paranormal. He's not someone
Right.
who
It
gets
sounds
into
like
stuff.
he's had, as we finish the rest of the story, that he's had a lot of other experiences
Right.
too.
And she kind of has a sort of theory on maybe why he's had them and
Yeah.
she hasn't.
It is a very bold story. I
Exactly.
mean, as we just say, we believe everybody. No, but I mean, like, that's more intense than like seeing a saucer or something.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
a UFO. Like, that's...
Well, and it's new. Again, it's that newness, I think, that also makes it more skeptical when you hear stories like that.
Yeah. It was an interesting detail too, that it's like, it was running alongside the road next to him. Do you remember if like a stray dog? They would like run up to you while you're jogging and then
Hey,
just kind
what
of
you
keeps up
doing?
with you for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, it twists its head up unnaturally
With
to
a
look
wide
at you.
grin.
Yeah, and black eyes.
Hi.
Yeah.
How are you?
Didn't he say like he never looked at the road? He just looked at
Just stared at
Anthony?
him the whole time. That's the creepy part.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
So, how old was he? Did it say?
He was a teenager.
Oh, okay. So this happened when he was
He,
kind of a
like
kid.
I, worked at Dairy Queen in high school.
And it was in
Cool story.
Livingston, Montana, and I tried to find other crawler accounts in the area, and I found one other one in Montana. It was very similar. It was basically someone with this kind of creature described, and I think it was under a Skinwalker subreddit. That's what they were suggesting it might be.
Right.
But it was running alongside their car.
Oh, really? In Montana?
Ran the opposite direction on its hands and feet, but a pale white humanoid creature. It was an interesting story. I'll put it in the show notes, but it got a lot of people criticizing it for being
Creepypasta?
written just because the way it was written.
Oh, yeah. Very narrative form.
And anyways, I'll link a couple stories in the show notes. I found another one from Utah of a security guard that was really interesting of a crawler. So
That name.
a crawler.
Makes me
I know.
nauseous.
Nauseous.
Not nauseous. It sounds so fictional
Yeah.
that it's hard to take
Yeah.
it seriously.
Yeah. Well, we'll just say
What would you name it, Mr. Chris?
I would name it a skillygag. And I would say it comes from Norwegian folklore.
Skillygag sounds dumb, though. Doesn't sound
it sounds
scary.
cool, man.
skillygag.
It's like a snallygaster.
Yeah, it does sound like kind of like a gangly, pale man creature that come out of the woods and like skittle around, like like side to side between
That's
the
good
trees.
impression.
He's a skittle gag. I'm a skittle gag. Yeah, not scary, just weird.
Anyway, let's continue.
I'm trying to think of a name for it. I want to have one. Steckler.
Oh, that's good.
Skelker.
Skelker, that's good.
Is that a real name?
But that's also verging on sort of the creepypasta sound, like a skelker, a creeper.
Skulker might be one.
Skulker.
So
I
that's
feel like
another
I've heard that.
Yeah,
I think you slap an ER on something.
How
It's
about a crabite?
that is great.
Crab has nothing to do with crabs.
That's right. It's just kind of on all
It's a
fours,
crawler.
scuttling. Yeah.
A crabite walker. Okay.
Let's continue.
Oh, yeah. My one thought about the quote crawler idea is that a lot of these take place near or in the same kind of forestatal region of like a.
A forestatal region. Is that a new province?
Yeah. I was thinking of like the Cryptid Four Corners, which is the four corners of the Navajo Nation.
Right.
Utah, I forget there are states involved because I'm bad with geography.
Arizona.
Out west. But so my thought was like a lot of the reports around that area. We actually have some around here, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. But the idea that like these could be skinwalkers, right?
Yeah.
I've heard that
in
before,
transition
yeah.
or in some
think
form.
that's-
Because one of the common features is running up alongside at unnatural speeds along
Yeah,
cars.
and those things are shapeshifters, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So they're therianthropes, which means they can
I don't want
shape
to talk about
shift
skinwalkers
form.
anymore. They give me bad news.
Yeah, they're creepy. But that was just kind of a theory I wanted to toss out there.
Yeah, that's a good quick point to make. If there's legitimacy to these sort of encounters, that would be a good candidate for possible explanation because there is history behind that, the
Right,
skinwalker.
Right. So let's get to the rest of Anthony's story here.
Let's do it.
Anthony and Jennifer's story. Anthony has told me there was a house he lived in Utah, Salt Lake area, where weird things happen just constantly. The typical knocks, cabinet doors opening and closing, and electric weirdness. He and his siblings would see humanoid shadows dancing on the walls when they laid in their beds at night. Their youngest brother used to see an old man. There was even a time where something growled to Anthony. Yuck, no thanks. In Montana, near where we live, there's a place called Highlight Reservoir, nestled in a mountain range. People go camping there often, and there's lots of back roads and trails that branch off into the mountains. Maybe about 4 years ago, Anthony and a couple of his friends went camping and fishing for one night. They were chatting, cracking open a few beers, when a boy appeared, maybe around 8 to 10 years old. He was pale, wet, and looked bloodied up. He was silently staring at them from maybe 100 feet away. They yelled out,
Hey, are you okay? What are you doing?
and the boy turned into the woods and walked off. Anthony has told me he felt like he knew it was a ghost and didn't even want to bother with it, and just hoped he didn't see it again. I tried to look up articles of deaths at Highlight, and I couldn't really come up with much. I completely believe Anthony. He doesn't talk about this stuff much, but I don't know why it's happening to him and not me. Maybe when you grow up in houses dealing with that, you become sensitive to future paranormal circumstances. I'll hit you guys up if he tells me anything more. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Jen. And thank you, Anthony. I'm glad you survived the crawler.
It sounds like he has some sort of attractor magnet.
Yeah, and I do believe...
Tractor magnet.
I do believe people genuinely
it does
have...
seem like people are drawn to stuff.
Beacons, lighthouses of the beyond. It seems like there are definitely people that are more sensitive that have that drawing to them.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely some creepy ones too. It sounds like he's had a slew of very creepy
yeah, bizarre.
experiences.
The crawler not necessarily being like a spiritual entity by any means, possibly some kind of interdimensional thing that maybe that would be attracted to him as well. But who knows?
Shadow people dancing on your wall when you're growing up. That'd
Yeah.
be pretty creepy.
Yeah, for sure.
We're entertaining.
Depending what kind of dance they're doing.
Yeah,
If they were
true.
twerking, it would be
Right.
Why?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, thank you guys for those experiences. Thank you for sharing. Definitely interesting.
Yeah.
A great way to start off the episode, I
a
think.
good way to enter into the unknown. I don't know if it needed a gunshot effect.
It's
at the end.
supposed to be his lightning sound, I think.
Oh. Okay.
All right. So next we have a story from Jorge and Chrisanna Eran from Gainesville, Florida. This story we call They Come at Night.
My wife's dad lives in West Virginia and we often visit him. One time a few days before the visit, instead of staying at a hotel, he suggested we stay at a house he was flipping. We agreed and drove there and he cooked us dinner. As the sun was setting, he collected his things and bid us goodnight.
Sleep well, guys.
Now at that time, he was involved in local music and concert promotion, and he had 2 very expensive music boards in the house. When we got there, a friend of his had been there checking on one of the boards. He left shortly after we arrived. This is an important detail for what follows later. We took a shower and got ready for bed. There wasn't a TV and we were pretty tired. My wife was in the bathroom blow-drying her hair and I walked to the kitchen because I felt somebody was looking through the kitchen window. This feeling was so strong that I even started talking to it. I felt it was my father-in-law's friend from earlier. I thought maybe he forgot something. "I'm coming," I said, and walked to the kitchen, but there was nobody at that window. Then I thought he had walked to the front door, so I hurried there, and again I said, "I'm coming." But when I opened the door, there was nobody there. Weird, I thought. So I walked back to the bathroom to tell my wife, and she turned and looked at me with a curious look. She asked where I came from. I told her the kitchen. Then she said that I had just gone by the bathroom towards the bedroom. Impossible, because I was in the kitchen. So I ran into the bedroom and there was nobody there. I checked under the bed, the closets, nothing. She swore that she had seen a man walk towards the bathroom out of the corner of her eye. So now we're in the bedroom and I told her what I felt. The feeling I had continued to grow. It was a big feeling of dread. An imminent dread that something bad was going to happen. Now the room we were in had been painted green, and the lamp's light was very weak, so I brought in 2 more lamps from the living room and plugged them in. The lights would dim slowly to the point that the room was dark. This didn't help alleviate the feeling I had. I turned to my wife and asked her, "Does your father have any enemies?" She looked puzzled but replied, "Probably. He's been involved with local businesses all his life, so maybe there could be." "Why?" she asked. "Because I have a very strong feeling something is waiting for us to go to sleep, and then they're going to come and get us." These were the words I utter in growing fear. She admitted she was a bit freaked out and asked me again about the person she had seen walking past her. We agreed we would go to her grandmother's house for the night. Her dad was staying there, and I asked her to please don't tell him what I felt. I was afraid he would think me a coward. We got dressed and left. On the way out, I turned on every light and had to turn them off as I walked out. We drove to her grandmother's house and surprised her dad. He was strumming his guitar and watching an old TV Western. I immediately blurted out exactly why we left the house. My wife gave me this look. The cat was out of the bag. His daughter had married a gutless twit. But he sat back and pondered it for a bit. Then he asked my wife if that was true, and she agreed and retold the night's events. Then he suddenly blurted out, "Well, me too. When the sun goes down, I gotta get the hell out of that place." He went on to tell us he had felt the same feeling and that the people that were helping him flip the house also left when the sun went down, and that they felt uneasy in that house. So my wife confronted him and he said he thought it was only him and the coworkers. We stayed at her grandmother's house for the rest of the trip. Eventually, he had to get the local priest to bless the house. He claims that worked, but we dare not set foot in that house again to check if it did. Jorge and Chrisanna, Eran.
That's a great story.
Man, really creepy.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the movie 1408. I don't know.
Oh,
why.
great movie. John Cusack.
Yeah. And how there's just like CC's people, like
Yeah.
it's just like these
Just moments, just fragments
Passing by.
Remember
figures.
when he looks out the window and he sees like
Ugh.
him on the other side,
Gross.
and
Yeah.
then he sees the reflection back, and there's that person with like a bat in his room.
That's great.
Ugh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's terrifying though. I mean, to know that someone else was walking in the house.
It's so casual.
Yeah, like you're not a coward, dude. I think most people in their right mind would leave. Like,
Yeah.
it's dumb to stay in a house that someone could possibly be in.
Yeah, a gutless twit, sir, you are not.
I think it was ghosts. I mean, I
Right.
think that's
well,
the
yeah,
idea.
but you don't know in the moment.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things I love about the story is that initially his first reaction is, this is someone here, a living person that wants to hurt us. He's not, it must be ghosts, you know. And
I don't know if I'd want to stay there if it was ghosts either, but
No.
you had less chance of actually getting physically hurt
Right.
by a ghost.
And of course, at the end, the turn where his father-in-law
Yeah,
admits, I felt weird in there. I would
Creepy,
leave
dude,
the flippers, and then the daughter was kind of pissed, like, why did you put us in there? He's like,
No
well, I wasn't
shit.
sure.
Yeah, that's. Well, I just thought it happened to me and my other people that I know.
I first heard him describe the man walking past that she had seen. It made me think of, was it that movie? I can't remember the name, about the Frogger. Is that what it was called?
Oh, yeah.
People that like live in the home without you knowing. And that,
Yeah,
that
they're
idea is
like,
also very creepy.
They're adventurous that literally sneak into people's homes and stay there without
in the
people
walls.
knowing. Or like in a big guest room
That no
or
one's
something.
using. Yeah.
That's terrifying.
And so then you're just out. There's a YouTube video. We'll link in the show notes, but you've seen that one, John, where like this guy keeps having his food disappear in the middle of the night. Weird things. And then he puts up a security camera in his kitchen. I think it's in his kitchen.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you see
It's like a
feet
lady
coming down from the ceiling, and someone drops down into the room and then just starts like making cereal for herself and then pees in the sink. And then like a light comes on in the hallway because the guy wakes up to go to the bathroom, and she like rustles back up into the ceiling and closes it.
Into the ceiling.
kind of panel or something.
A panel, or she lives in the attic or something.
Wow. That is definitely creepy. What did he do after that?
He got famous on YouTube.
She just lives up there now.
I wonder if he called the police or he just was like, hey, get out of here.
I'd call the police because you never know if that person's
Yeah,
insane.
I would too.
It's fascinating because like you could do that. If you were getting evicted, you had nowhere to go. You just say you left and then hide in the walls, and then there you are.
That sounds like the logical next step.
I'm
I got to
not
leave.
saying
Nah,
it's
I'm not leaving.
I'm not saying like it's a great idea for like,
It almost seems like, in the Frogger movie, they almost wanted to be caught. And
Well,
if you're eating people's food, they're gonna notice at some point.
Well, I think that was part of that's a lot of twists in that movie. It's not called Frogger, and we kind of spoiled it a little bit, but we'll link in the show notes.
I know we did, and that's a really creepy movie too. It was until you realize what's going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, I'm sure there are people that actually do that kind of thing for the adventure and the
I'm
thrill
sure
of that.
there
But
are,
I'm sure there are also people that are just insane that do that kind of stuff because you hear stories about that. It's a very extreme thing to do.
Very extreme.
Live in someone's home without their knowledge.
We've snuck into
That's
places.
very, very extreme. That's first of all, it's highly illegal.
Yeah.
Is it?
And second of all, if someone caught you in there, you're dead. Like if they have a gun,
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people would shoot you to death.
All right. Well, thank you guys for that submission. That was
Very
great.
creepy.
Excellent story.
Very, very creepy story. Two really good ones so far.
Mhm.
I'd like to know if there's ever any follow-up on that. If you flipped it, if they sell it, if
Yeah.
there's any other stories. Do the new owners move out quickly? Is there, does this
And that would
continue?
suck if you bought the home and then,
yeah.
the first night there, it just continues. It's like, this house is definitely haunted.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yucky.
All right.
Next one.
Yes. Okay. This one, I really like the story. It's very intriguing and it ties into our first speak pipe. So I thought it'd be good to do now.
So this comes from Jeremy, right?
Yes. This is called Invaders in the Woods. What's up, guys? Just found your show about a week or two ago. Been listening to every episode since. Anyway, I have a story about a UFO or something that I saw about 10 years ago. I live in Alabama and used to live in the woods with about 3 miles of just trees and side roads in one direction and about a mile of trees in the other before you finally hit civilization. Not extremely isolated, but enough that several weird things happened throughout my childhood there. One night, I heard my dog start barking at something, which wasn't exactly uncommon, but what was weird was the sudden silence, all at once, with no follow-up, single bark that they usually do as a final threat or something. I got curious, got out of bed. It was around 2 a.m. at that time, and walked out on my porch. Our porch was about 5 feet off the ground, and I was about 5 feet tall. I looked around, called for my dogs, and didn't hear anything. So I thought, I guess they hit the woods, maybe chasing a rabbit, who knows. So I turned to walk back inside and saw a light in the woods. This light was about eye level with me, and the source was just out of sight. It looked like a single car light on bright and was steadily blinking. About the speed as one of those cell towers. I even thought that's what it was, that maybe it was a cell tower that they had added that I'd never noticed. But that was stupid. This thing was just beyond the tree line and bright as hell. And it was at eye level, no towers that short, a mere 10 feet or so off the ground. Here's the weird part, and the part that most people quit listening. I remember noticing my dog sitting just beyond the tree line, or maybe lying down, I can't be sure. And I remember hearing something walk. I don't know what it was or how many there was, but I heard footsteps that sounded human walking through the leaves. And I remember seeing something. I know I saw something, but I can't remember. What I do remember is realizing what I was seeing and going back to bed. I know I was seeing a ship or something abnormal, and I just went to bed, ignoring it instead of waking someone up. Why would I do that? I woke up the next morning confused as hell. Why didn't I wake up my parents? I even questioned if I had dreamed it or not. The part that is fucked up, my feet were muddy as hell, like I had been walking outside. but I hadn't left the porch. And one of my dogs was missing, and we haven't seen her since. Finally, I told my family, and I don't think they believed me. I was around 16 or 17 then. Now I'm 27, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. Well, what I can remember. But since that night, I've had nightmares about things I don't like to think about, and a scar on my side that I don't remember getting. I have keloids, so my scars are huge if they go deep enough for stitches. So the fact I got a new scar around that time that I don't remember getting always bothered me. So yeah, just wanted to share that story with y'all.
Crazy.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy, for sharing that. That's always a scary thing when you have a memory of something that you don't exactly know how that moment ended.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the whole idea of seeing a craft in your woods and then just going to bed.
Yeah.
I can almost
yeah.
I can feel that feeling.
Well, that's funny that you
way.
say that, John, and I hope this isn't true, but we have a speak pipe coming up about an alien abduction where they reference a story you had told, but that's so typical, that sort of unexplained actions that you're taking yourself, like the going to sleep. It's almost as if someone's in control of your body.
Right.
That is super typical in abduction experiences.
What's so weird is, I don't know what movies keep popping up references in this episode, but Dark Skies, same kind of idea. Like it's, you're not exactly sure what's going on, but obviously it involves UFOs, aliens, but that missing time and someone taking control of your body in your home,
Right.
and waking up in places you don't remember how you got there, you don't remember what you lose time.
Yeah.
That it's just interesting that that's like, sometimes in fiction we see things that actually have parallels in reality with some of these experiences. And
Right.
yeah, who knows what happened to Jeremy? It sounds like he's not sure,
Well,
but
I know.
John knows.
I
for
mean,
sure.
if he saw a ship,
He says he saw a light.
I thought he said he saw a craft.
I think he said like a craft, but he couldn't be sure.
What I do remember is realizing what I was seeing and going back to bed. I know I was seeing a ship or something.
Yeah, ship or something.
Something abnormal. Okay, yeah, so not exactly sure, but obviously.
A ship in your woods is pretty abnormal.
Yeah, but even if you're unsure, you're not sure, maybe it's a ship, you don't just go, oh, well, go to bed.
Exactly. And his dogs were out there, and then
And then the one's missing never returns. That's sad.
Yeah, it's terribly sad. I'm sorry for your loss. That sucks.
Yeah.
And there's something eerie about that scene where he says when it started to get weird was when he noticed the dogs were just inside the tree line, lying down or sitting there. For some reason, that seems
I can
weird to
see
me.
it in my head, the whole vision of it. It just
Yeah.
seems like straight out of a movie.
Very bizarre.
Reminds me of that very sad story at Skinwalker Ranch where the dogs go off to chase that floating blue orb in down at the woods, the end of the field or something. And then when
One gets fried.
they never come back. And then the rancher goes out to find them. And yeah, they're basically melted pools of black oil or
What
something.
a bunch of alien dickoids.
Yeah. Well, it could have been self-defense, but
It'd be funny if there was a breed of alien called dickoids.
There will be. In this vast universe, I'm sure it's there somewhere.
all right. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks again for that story. That was really well written.
Yeah.
And really interesting. And I hope you haven't had any experiences like that
Yeah.
since.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going...
Another abduction story. They're both really good.
Yeah.
I mean,
this
as
one
far
is,
as compelling.
Right.
This one we'll hear in his own words. What's his name?
Charles. For anonymity.
Okay, this one we'll hear in Charles's own words.
Cool.
See you in a sec.
If you're lucky. Hey everybody. For this week's expansion episode, we have a really unique and creepy topic. It's called Kids Say the Darkest Things and Nightmares in Babysitting. We had a lot of fun on this one, so if you're interested in getting the expansion episodes, head over to beliefhole.com and click the Patreon button. If you like the show, this is the best way to support us and keep the hole going. Yes! For every regular episode, we release an expansion episode over there, so if you need more Belief Hole, check that out. All right, everybody, thanks for listening, and here is this week's expansion preview.
Access granted.
I've got more. I've got strange things kids say. John's already peeking ahead.
Well, let me jump in.
You've got some more creepy things?
This one comes from Kate TX on Reddit.
What's this called?
The new stepmom. I was watching my cousin's 7-year-old, and my cousin had just gotten remarried. She wanted to tell me stories of her own after we read a book.
And all of them included her brutally murdering her new stepmom, stabbing her, ripping her limbs off, and throwing her into a pit of hungry dogs were just a few of the things she did to her stepmom in these stories. I asked her to give me a story with a happy ending instead, and she said that the stories did have happy endings.
Okay, so
obviously,
it's macabre.
Yeah,
but
that's a
it's
child
funny.
dealing with,
Right.
changing
Not
the
liking her
home.
stepmom.
Yeah,
It was
kind of sad, kind of humorous though.
Yeah, in a macabre, tragic kind of way.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll do one more in that vein of kind of, there's a little bit of humor in there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not so much paranormal, but just odd. This is called Robo Boy. And this is by Glitter Skulls. I had accidentally broken his recorder by not catching it in time by the time it slid off the table. The boy I'm babysitting said,
Hey, don't break things. When you break things, you hurt feelings. You hurt my feelings. I thought we were friends.
that was an accident.
I am self-aware.
The fact he pointed out that he was self-aware made me laugh and feel creeped out at the same time. Since then, he has been staring at me every time I have to take care of him.
I am self-aware.
I am self-aware.
That's bizarre.
That's like a 3,000-year-old demon coming in for a second.
I am self-aware.
I am self-aware.
I mean, I get the Roboboy title because it is like, I am self-aware. You know?
Like awareness,
Yeah.
AI kind of thing.
But it could also be like,
How old was he? Does it say? I hate when they don't say how old they are. I mean, if that's like a 4-year-old, 5-year-old saying that.
still self-aware is pretty,
I mean, that's like saying,
yeah, it could be a term he picked up
or
from
if
like,
it's something possessing the kid or something, in this crazy idea. But if you were to say you're like an adult in a kid's body or your past life kind of thing, you'd say, I'm self-aware. Like it's like saying
I don't
like,
think you would say that. I feel like if you're an artificial intelligence, then somehow you've infected a human
okay,
being.
but that's obviously, he's not a Borg child. I think it
How do
sounds,
you know?
it
Yeah,
sounds
you don't
more
know.
like to me that it's
There
like,
are Borgs among us at this
John,
point.
you're not even a sci-fi fan. You don't even know what a Borg
This is not sci-fi. This is
What series
this
is what's
sci-fact.
What series is the Borg from, John?
I'm just saying the robots.
I think he thinks we're talking about cyborgs.
I'm just saying robots.
well, robot.
I want to know if you know
people.
though. I'm curious if you can
No,
answer that
of
question.
course not.
Star Trek, come on.
I was gonna have him guess.
Star Trek?
Guess which
Well, soccer athlete. Says it like we're nerds over here.
Star Trek? Not
Next
into
gen.
nerd shit.
You're missing out.
I am self-aware.
I am self-aware.
There you go. Now, what if he had said it that way?
That would be weird.
Then it's not a laughing matter.
All right, Chris, you got some more creepy ones
Then
here?
they're taking over, taking over, taking over.
The weight is off my chest since I decided to go. You could have seen it coming. Now I got to go, and I will never come back to you.
Guess what time it is?
It's back time.
It's back time.
We're back.
Get on your back.
That's weird.
Nope. Does not sound right. All right, guys, we're back.
We're back, and we're going to tie back into that abduction story, or maybe potential abduction experience with a pretty intense submission.
Great. And we get to hear in his own words.
Yeah.
So for anonymity, we'll call him Charlie, right?
Yeah.
This was a great speak pipe that we got.
Yeah, definitely. And it alludes to my UFO kind of stories.
Right. Which I hope he's wrong about. I hope.
Yeah. Well, whatever that part of my life was, it doesn't happen anymore. So
What if Jake is really just your alien handler and you don't
it's
know?
possible. He's very protective.
We made that argument that when John goes to bed, Jake stands
gets
up
up-
on two legs and then just like cleans the house and
Well, it is
does the
weird
dishes.
how Jake gets scared sometimes.
You say that's cool, weird?
I said that I was gonna say crazy maybe.
Oh,
but
Brain.
I think that's ghosties more than
ghosties.
Aliens.
floaty guys.
Maybe they're all one and the same.
Maybe. Who knows? When the night comes, it's always a different feeling. When the night comes.
All right. Well, let's hear from Charles.
Hey guys, first let me say I love your show. I just started listening to it about 2 months ago, and I have binge listened to the entire thing. I think I have 4 episodes left till I'm up to the present. So, my story is on alien abduction. I've told myself over the years that it was just a bad nightmare, But something John mentioned in numerous different episodes about the blood coming from the ear triggered my memory of it. So this happened roughly around 1998. I lived in South Carolina in the city. Was at my mother's, and we had family over. And, you know, it was just a usual afternoon. We were catching up, having a good time. Evening rolls around, and I remember thinking, I'm just really tired. I think I'm going to call it early night. So I go to bed, and I just immediately fell asleep, which is kind of unusual, but it happens. And I remember I started to wake up and come to. And I thought, well, great, it's going to be another one of those nights, sleep for 2 hours and up for 12. But as I woke up, I immediately noticed something wasn't right. There was this blinding white light in this room. And I remember thinking to myself, what the hell is going on? And then the next thought that popped into my head is, I can't move. I was able to look down, and my hands and arms were on, I guess, an armrest of some sort, but they weren't strapped down. But I remember thinking, I'm paralyzed. I can't move. And the surface that I was on was hard, and I was upright in a sitting position, so I'm assuming it was some kind of maybe metal chair, metal table. And I tried to look past the light because I knew there were people in there with me, but I couldn't quite make them out. Now, keep in mind, I'm retired Army. I did 2 combat tours in Afghanistan. I've been shot at, bombed, blown up. And guys, I was not as terrified as I was that night as when I was in Afghanistan. I can't even begin to tell you the terror that I was feeling. I kept telling myself, this is a dream. This is a dream. And I kept thinking, why the hell aren't I waking up? Why isn't somebody hearing me scream? The next thing I know, there were 2 long metal rods coming at my head. And somehow I managed to just barely move my head. And when I did, I felt something metallic against my forehead. I couldn't move it anymore. And on the ends of these metal rods, there was like these, I guess spreaders or something. I'm not sure. And I remember feeling it press against my mouth and start to go into my mouth and expand open. And guys, at that point, everything went black. I guess I passed out from fear. I don't know. So I black out, and then I open my eyes again, and when I do, I'm back in my room. And it's daytime. Now, when I woke up, I remember feeling like I had been hit by a freight train multiple times. I had this headache I can't even begin to describe. I mean, I've had migraines before, and this, honestly, I felt like my brain was compressed. My neck was sore. Just everything hurt. I brushed it off as a really bad nightmare. But guys, this is the part that made me go, what the fuck? At the time, I had a tongue ring. I had multiple piercings. It was 1998. We were all putting holes in our bodies that we weren't born with. When I woke up, or came to, as it was, I remember thinking, my mouth feels weird. And I felt my tongue. And my tongue ring wasn't in. My tongue ring was actually laid on the pillow beside me. I sleep on the right side of the bed, and it was on the pillow on the left side of the bed. My tongue was pierced with a 1-inch barbell 8 gauge. It wasn't a small tongue ring. It was a big one. And it was laying there. Now, at the time, I had had my tongue pierced for about 5 years. Never in my life had I taken a piercing out in my sleep. Then something else started to happen, and it still happens now to this day. Every 2, 3, 4 months, I wake up with a cut on my right ear at the top. On the inside, I'll wake up with the elongated cut and dried blood down my ear. And when John had mentioned that, it brought it back. And this is my first time ever telling the full story. You know, I told my fiance about me, tongue ring being out. She was like, what the hell? And I've always been an open-minded person, skeptical but open-minded. I love the paranormal. I love the occult and alien abduction, all that stuff. I want to believe it's real. There's enough folklore stories out there going around to make you think, hey, maybe there is something to this. So I want to believe. I'm a little bit skeptical, but I keep an open mind. I don't want to say I was abducted by aliens. I have no way to prove that. I have no way of confirming it. Was it just a bad nightmare and somehow I took my tongue ring out and now I wake up with a cut on my ear every few months? I don't know. I just, I thought I would share this with you, and, you got another one to add to the files. You guys have a good one.
Thank you, Charles, for sharing that.
Yeah. Yikes.
Very intense, yeah. Creepy. It definitely reminds me of a little bit of my experiences. Even the parts about like waking up and being really sore for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that happening a lot in Austin.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
You had something with your ear, right?
Well, I talked about the blood in the ear.
Yeah.
But I also have like an implant in my ear.
You're sure?
There's something in there that just appeared one day.
It's not a fatty win?
I don't know. It just appeared
Fatty
one day.
win.
It was the weird thing. I just had ever noticed it. And then it was just this long, skinny.
Oh, so you said it's long, right? That's
Yeah, it's
odd.
long and skinny, like a rod thing.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like an implant.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was going to,
I don't even want to know any more about it.
yeah.
I don't want to ever know any more about it.
It's almost scarier to find out.
As long as I'm not getting abducted anymore if it ever did happen.
Yeah.
Which I have no idea. there's a lot of weird stuff.
You're like Cypher. Was it Cypher in the Matrix? The guy who's like,
yeah, just put me back to sleep.
yeah, he's like, I just want to eat a steak.
Yeah, just give me the steak. I know it's not real, but
Right.
this is such a good
Ignorance
steak.
is bliss.
Yeah, but who knows, man? I mean, what's weird about the whole abduction phenomenon is like, if it is real, like what's the point of like putting people back?
Well, because I think there would be, it's easy to say you're
Yeah,
crazy.
but
that
look at all
didn't
the
happen
people
to
that
you.
go missing.
Yeah, but there is an I just looked this up.
You think the aliens would be worried about the FBI coming
Maybe
and tracking
maybe
them
they're
down?
studying them in their own habitat, so they don't want to take them out of the habitat.
Or I think it's also very likely, and this has been a thing in conspiracy circles for a long time, that there might be some sort of agreement with higher ups in world government where it's like you can take so many, but you have to put them back because you'd have to explain for that.
I've
if you had
also heard-
600,000 people disappear one night,
Right.
that'd be different than putting them back every other day, and because then you can say that guy's crazy. But if everybody disappears, then
Right.
at least the government.
Yeah, it depends on how many people are actually being.
Yeah, and from what I just looked up, there was a 1992 poll. And there's probably a more recent one, but it was a Bigelow poll, which is interesting. It said that about 2% of the world's population, so if you adapt that to the United States, about 600,000 people are claiming to be abducted at one time. And not at the same time, but
At any given time?
at any given time, there's about 600,000 acclaimed alleged abductees.
600,000 people?
Yeah, if I'm reading this right.
In the world, though, that's not that many. Oh, that's a lot.
I thought you
but
said in the U.S.
It says extrapolated to the larger U.S. population.
the U.S.
This would equal 600,000 AAEs, which is alien abduction
Oh,
experiencers.
so basically they have a small pocket of a group of people that have polled, that have been abducted, so then they extrapolate that out to the wider population.
I'm not sure how they did the poll. If it was a wide range of people, then compressed
Can you
it.
link that in the show
Yeah, I'll
notes?
link it in the show notes. This is researchgate.net.
Interesting to hear from Charles if he had any sort of like before this stuff happened that he saw anything like I did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are there any signs?
Did he see a craft or anything before it happened?
There's also the idea that this isn't aliens.
There could be, I'm not going to speculate because who knows,
black
but
projects.
it's one of those, you hear this a lot where sometimes, if you happen to have been in the military, There are reports of people saying that has been kind of been taken advantage of in
experimentation without their
experimentation
knowledge.
sort of setting. Well, we know that happens.
Yeah, I think some stuff has come out that
Hopefully
has
not,
been
but-
admitted that there's been
The
testing.
government never experiments on its own
Wasn't Agent
population.
Orange? Wasn't that even a thing that they tested in Vietnam? Yes, hearing a story like I don't think we've had a listener story where we've heard someone so shaken, so authentically upset while recording the story. So thank you for sharing that. I can't imagine the invasive feeling, the penetration into your person, like when you wake up and something's been removed from your body.
Violation like that.
Yeah.
Or just, like the spreaders.
The spreaders, and that he said maybe I had a nightmare, but then I wake up with my tongue ring removed from my mouth,
And then every other month getting it bleeding from the ear.
It does remind me of like the missing 411 and that kind of stuff, where you'll find items the person had sitting on top of their clothes folded up, either next to the body that we discovered much later or not at all. But articles are always removed, like they're not. They're in the way, or they're not useful.
There's so many accounts of this, but there was one famous one, of course I can't think of the name, but where the people were returned back into their station wagon, but the mother-in-law was driving now instead of the daughter-in-law who was driving. So they put people back, but put them in the wrong places, or they put the clothes on the wrong people. Like there's sometimes there's just like whoops, which is kind of interesting.
There's also another line of thinking within some of the experiencers that this is like a soul contract almost sort of thing. Like they agree to this before they even come into their bodies.
Right. That gets into like the esoteric kind of stuff.
Yeah,
with
it's definitely
abduction
something different. But I think this even goes into the idea that some of these aliens are actually future humans.
Oh, yeah.
They've gone so far down a bad path as far as evolution goes, and their species is dying out. And so they time travel and have somehow made a contractual agreement with someone so that they can study and help replace whatever was lost. I mean, that's obviously a pretty fantastical
It's
story.
fantastical, but I've thought for a long time that makes total sense. If you think about we get to a point, we've talked about this, joking around, like, people just watch Netflix all day and, stay inside, their eyes will get bigger, they'll get really scrawny.
Right.
But no, that time travel, the future humans thing, I think it's definitely a valid theory. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of things you can point to say.
Well, some of the things you hear that just sound like just like fear added for no reason, and not necessarily in this case, but the psychological trauma that's done and the fear, and that, especially with the paralysis stuff, right? Like the idea of feeding off that fear, and that there may be entities that are, enjoying that fumes of the adrenochrome. Like there's always that side of it too, So, and not to scare Charles, our friend of the show, thank you for submitting this. Not the nice thing, but usually I haven't heard a lot of accounts where people had these kinds of experiences and then were taken forever. Like whatever it is, like you're probably fine. But I would recommend putting up some security cameras in your room.
Not a bad
if it
idea.
happens more than once, would definitely either deter or get something on
Do you
tape.
think it's going to deter?
Well, if it doesn't, you got it on tape. At least you have something
How do you
to
know?
prove
They
to yourself.
probably, if they can extract you from your bed without knowing in the middle of the night, there's no evidence left. Don't you think they could short circuit a camera?
Yeah, but there might be some evidence that at least you could prove to yourself, like, well, it's short circuit at
Well,
3 a.m.
here's it goes back. I don't want to know any more about it.
Right, that's true. Well,
Like, I literally wouldn't want to know any more about it.
Right. Well, and when it's serious trauma too, that's a good point. Like you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to think about it. You're not
As
necessarily
long as
going to want
it's
to prove
not
it.
like affecting my day-to-day life. Now, if it was like, you're remembering stuff a lot and you were trying to escape it more and it was still happening and like it was very traumatic, then that'd be a different story. But if it's not affecting you in any real way that you can measure, like I'd rather just not add to that trauma. That's
Maybe
my
they
2
just,
cents.
in your case, maybe they just take you on board the ship and
Play soccer.
and just give you like the best night ever. And then they just erase your memory and put you back into bed.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. But no,
Some alien lady thought I was cute.
there you go.
So you're married to an alien, and then you see her like once a month.
That's
but
where
you
my
don't know.
3 kids are.
Hey, Splip
That's
Splorer.
true. You had that dream where.
No, I didn't have it. My friend had it.
That's right. She
Someone
told
that I
you
don't even talk to.
that you had children that weren't your own. We assumed it was because you were meeting with someone on board a ship and having alien babies.
Exactly.
Yeah, hopefully, Charles, your experience, I hope that it is.
I mean, it doesn't sound like it's happening a lot anymore as far as anything. He said it jogged his memory of something that had happened in the
They
past.
said it still happens every few months. I think
The
that's what he
blood.
said.
The cut on the ear.
Oh, that's true.
Like that one real intense experience, it doesn't sound like that's happening anymore.
Hopefully, that's done.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing, man.
Yeah,
awesome
absolutely.
story. I mean, awesome for what it's worth. But
Yeah, well told, and thank you for the authentic presentation.
yeah, man, for sure. Good luck with no more experiences.
Absolutely.
Our next story comes from Alicia. This is a pretty creepy story. This is called Pay Attention to Me.
I have a ghost story I would like to tell you. I was very much a non-believer, and I am still a skeptic to this day. But something happened to me when I lived in a very small town a few years ago that makes me question reality. It all started when we had decided to relocate to Nelson, British Columbia. It's a small town and a large departure from the metropolis we were from. The boyfriend spent long periods out of town for work, so I was in charge of finding us a place to live. The landlord informed me that the house I chose was roughly 100 years old. Sounds similar to where I live. Me, John. I had not even considered the prospect of anything paranormal. One night, a couple of months after moving in, my BF was out of town again. I am a skeptic, so I really didn't think much of spending time alone, despite there being no street lamps outside and the house having a generally spooky vibe at night. I was also in the company of 3 cats. One night I was up late watching TV, playing around with the video function on my phone. I was taking videos of the cats, with no light besides from what came off the TV. I noticed some orbs, and I had not even previously known this term, but I Googled it shortly after this experience. I was inclined to think of these white, perfectly formed floating spheres as dust particles. However, they did not fit that criteria, at least according to what I have seen before. They moved organically as if swimming or flying. They were on the whole much larger than dust particles, and some even seemed to have shapes and faces inside.
Ew.
It creeped me out when they moved toward me and in a way that seemed intentional. At first I was fascinated. I showed friends on their own phones. We even caught an orb glowing in a totally pitch black room. The more photos and videos I took, however, the more orbs appeared.
Uh-oh, drawing them in.
By this time, a few weeks had gone by, and one night, shortly after lying down to go to sleep, I felt a pressure on the bed. It was obvious, not a questionable thing, and I immediately felt for one of the cats, even though my mind had known that the pressure I had felt was much heavier than a cat. I felt no cat. I heard no cat. I was scared and immediately flipped on the bedside lamp. There were no cats in the bedroom. I calmed myself down as best I could and tried to forget about this incident. I also stopped taking photos and videos. Over the coming months, I felt uncomfortable and uneasy in the house. Then, one evening, I was positive that I felt a light shove to my back. I was adverse to any paranormal encounters. While I thought the orbs were neat, and for the most part, loved ghost stories, I did not want to live through one, and the proof I had experienced was enough for me. I wanted to move out of the house. I continued to experience the pressure on the bed while I was in it a few more times. It honestly felt like a person was sitting on my bed. The final incident occurred on a night shortly before I moved. I had been cooking dinner. There was a hallway that connects to the dining room from the kitchen. When dinner was ready, I was carrying it from the kitchen to the dining room when suddenly a crash of something falling off the counter made me stop. I turned around. There was, of course, nothing there except for a dish that had clattered to the floor, unbroken. Just as I was turning around, the glass light covering above my head, as well as the bulb inside, burst into shards above me. After this, I decided to move. I am glad to have experienced this because I now know the paranormal is real, and to me that keeps the magic alive, but I do not want to go through anything like that again. Love the podcast. Discovered it recently from a recommendation on Reddit and have been binge listening ever since.
Thank you for sharing.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel you on the not wanting to experience it.
Yeah.
You know, it is fun to talk about this stuff, but when it is actually happening to you, it's
a different story.
Pretty terrifying.
Yeah. It's weird because there's this allure and mystery when it comes to, things paranormal for a lot of people anyway, obviously. But yeah, it is like, you don't really want to have that. If once you do have that experience, you're like, that's enough. I don't need to have,
Yeah. And especially if it's kind of like I think like a near-death experience, like how we talked in that episode,
Right.
like if you were with the loved one that passed and you had this uplifting,
Yeah.
that would be great.
like a shared near death.
Yeah.
That would be great.
I would consider that a paranormal experience, right?
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, so I guess I'm referring more to
Right,
like
the ghostly things,
yeah.
especially when you're alone like that.
Yeah.
And I think some people kind of have ghostly experiences that are not super negative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're just kind of like happen.
Right.
This one sounds kind of mixed. It sounds like felt a little uninvited.
Yeah. And it seemed like, initially she was curious, like she was getting these
Right.
things. And orbs always bore me, except when they have when you see this a lot, and I think the genuine stuff, it seems almost as if there are faces within the orb.
Yeah,
There's some amazing photos.
Here's an example.
Oh, that's creepy. It looks like one of those masks.
Mm-hmm. I think.
Oh, yeah.
Like one
like
of
a
the
drama mask.
Yeah, the drama mask.
Yeah, I mean, I have it
That's creepy.
pretty close to me. It looks like a small boy's face or something in this one. We'll have this in the show notes, but this is a form of spirit photography, getting orbs in photos.
So that's really from an orb?
Mm-hmm. That's the story behind this one.
There's a really incredible one we'll put in the show notes, and I don't have it in front of me, but I'll describe it. It's a house, and this guy had this amazing experience.
Oh, yeah.
Video footage, and then he took a snapshot of the house outside when he left. He was kind of exploring this abandoned place. It was pretty breathtaking. There's a lot of fake stuff out there. This looks genuine, and there's a figure up top that's kind of glowing in yellow. There's all these different colors, and there's one down below, but one of them is this orb that's kind of flying, just like, sort of tadpole-like, which is, you see this a lot, and I think the genuine cases.
Almost has like a trail.
It has a trail, but if you look at the orb itself, it has like a face in it. And oftentimes when they know the history of a place and someone's died, sometimes there's this creepy connection between the face that is in the orb that looks very similar.
When he's passed away.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll put some stuff in the show notes. It'd be an interesting episode to do on spirit photography.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask Alicia, I forgot to, but if she happens to still have any of these photos of the orbs,
Oh, yeah.
it'd be great to get and put in the show notes.
So that place you were talking about.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, the guy who's like, he's famously haunted. It was a documentary on him a long time ago, and I think it was like he'd moved because the house he was in was haunted, and then he built this new house on this land.
Yeah, that was a separate one, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Where there were thousands of these swimming, it was video.
Right.
There were these swimming orbs, and they swim like this. It was in Colorado, I think. He was in the mountains.
Yeah, if we can find that, we'll put it in the show notes because
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
excellent.
But the reason I brought that up is because when you watch YouTube videos and you see, top 5 orb videos that show a face or whatever it is, or not that, but maybe a top 5 scary TikTok videos or whatever, caught on camera ghosts, like top 5, whatever. This is the key, and this is my advice. If you really want to be able to pull apart the ones that are definitely not hoaxes, at least in my mind, they could be, but there's definitely something going on. When you see like the door moving in the background and it slams and everyone's freaking out or whatever, if there at the same time are also orbs in the video that the people
Don't even notice.
Yeah. Because that seems to be the case that when there is activity in a home or something and you have these orbs, which are not dust particles, like you can tell the difference between dust particles and these seemingly almost like consciously moving, swimming orb type lights that the people aren't aware of when they're there. You can almost never see them in person, but you see them back on footage. So it's interesting when you see the videos of a supposed haunting, something caught on tape, and then while people are freaking out because of a door slamming, then there's also like you see evidence of these orbs flying.
Orbs swimming,
they're not even aware of. That kind of gives some credibility to those kinds of videos. So watch out for that when you're looking at those videos, guys.
Yeah.
That's my tip.
That's a good tip, Jeremy.
Thanks.
Because there are a lot of like just still photos, I think, where people do catch dust and like, look, it's an orb.
Right.
But times like this, and her suggestion there about the faces in there, that I think really takes it to another level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was actually a movie that premiered, I guess, in Nelson, British Columbia, where she is, about orb photography.
Oh, really?
In 2011, which is kind of interesting.
What's it called?
Orbs, the Veil is Lifting.
Oh,
I haven't seen
out.
it, but yeah, from Hope and Rainy Mead. But anyways, same town. I thought that was kind of a coincidence. But apparently there's been orb UFO sightings there. And it looks like a beautiful place, man. Nelson, British Columbia.
British Columbia in general is pretty gorgeous, from what I hear.
Look at this. Just
man.
Gorgeous.
Looks like Norway almost.
I want to go. Well, isn't British Columbia like the movie town or the movie province or whatever? Because it's like every small town, but like also beautiful.
British Columbia?
I don't think it's
Victoria or
it's a Canadian town where it's like the every town where people go to shoot.
That's British Columbia.
British Columbia is a province, isn't it?
It's not
Canada.
It's not part of Canada.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
It's a province in Canada, I
Whoops.
believe.
Would you think it was like another state or another country?
I don't know.
up there?
I thought New England was a state for like 14 years, so it's not, by the way. It's a collection of states. Don't make my mistake. All right, you ready for the next story? This one's great, and it's kind of an uplifting one. Spooky, but uplifting.
Lifting.
Exactly. Hey guys, I'm a mom and wife with 3 kids. I'm obsessed with your show. I listen while I'm doing daily chores.
Aw. This comes from Brianna Mascaroe, and we titled this Candy Gramps.
I want to tell you what happened when I was 5. I believe the innocence of children lets them see some things that adults can't or won't see. I had a great-grandfather who we called Candy Gramps. He always had a few shelves in his cupboard where he kept sweets for the grandkids and great-grandkids. He was an amazing man. Raised 2 kids on his own when his wife decided that being a mom wasn't for her. he would take our pies made of mud from the backyard, put them in the oven, and then an hour later we had cold chocolate cream pie. We thought he was magic. He had a great temperament. It took a lot to get on his bad side. He was very forgiving and loved family above all. Out of 3 generations, I happened to be the only kid he gave a light spanking to. My granny says I must have been over the top. I was a busy kid. When he turned 80, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. There was no hope, and it took him quickly. But he was playing jokes on us even in the hospital. He decided he wanted to pass it home, so his 2 children decided to honor that. On his last night on Earth, my parents called our babysitter and asked her to stay the night with me and my sister so they could be with Grandpa. When I went to bed, my babysitter was there. I woke up around 2 or 3 a.m. and just laid there with my eyes open. Had no need to move or talk, just kind of awake, but not. I was looking at my toy box, which was across the room from my bed, and I watched the lid slowly lift. And my great-grandfather was the reason it was lifting. He raised himself out of the toy box about halfway, his waist and legs still in the box. He waved to me and smiled, like you would when a car drives away. I knew in my 5-year-old mind he was saying goodbye. I just stared, and then he went back down, lowering the lid with him. When the lid was closed, I felt like I needed to move, so I rolled over and tried to go back to sleep. After about 10 minutes, or what felt like it, I decided I couldn't sleep, so I started to yell for the babysitter. My dad came into the room. He put me back to sleep. I found out the next day that my candy Gramps had passed away. I was sad, but wasn't devastated because I knew he wasn't really gone, just not here. I don't really know why he said bye to me, and I've asked cousins and aunts and uncles, and nothing happened to them. I will never forget that wave, and I will appreciate it forever. Thanks for a great show, Bree.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of creepy.
I was gonna say it's a sweet story, but it's just you imagine like you could totally twist
from a
it.
wrong perspective,
Right.
yeah. But
Slowly lifting
being in
the
the
lid.
5-year-old mind, you're not really scared of.
Yeah, and I think in those situations there is an energy there that you feel is positive or negative, and that's definitely a positive.
Yeah, that
experience.
reassuring energy that this is someone that you know and love, and they love you. And it's
obviously, the intention from her grandfather was of love.
Right.
Or if you take it out of context and you're in someone else's
just
house,
someone coming out of a toy box and waving at you.
Hello.
yeah, that kind of wave goodbye, you know.
Yeah.
If it was a wave hello and you didn't know the person, that'd be creepier.
Yeah.
It's like I'm here.
Hello.
Still an awesome story though.
Yeah.
Definitely like helps with the pain, I'm sure, as a loved one passes.
And that's, I think, a question a lot of people have when they have this kind of experience, or someone else in their family has it, but they don't. Like, why didn't I see, whoever? Or why did I and not my whoever? Like that happens.
It's a mystery.
It is a mystery.
Yeah. But Candy Gramps, super sweet story. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, mixed in with a little lighter side. We had a bunch of other creepy ones.
Yeah.
And that one definitely was a little bit uplifting.
All right, so we'll wrap it up here with this comes from Cynthia Lapham.
Right. And she kind of has like a smattering of different experiences, right?
Yeah. So what's cool about her story is like, it's not a long story with a kind of a major through line, but it's a lot of interesting kind of anecdotal stories. It seems like one of these situations where the family has all kind of had experiences generationally.
They seem very unique experiences.
Yeah.
Pretty vivid.
Right. So let's get into it. We'll call this one Red Eyes and Mexican Magic.
I like it.
One of my experiences that solidified that there is more than what we can see happened when I was 17, about a decade or so ago. I was sleeping on my stomach and something pushed my back down, so I woke up. I turned and saw my bookshelf, and in the dark I saw huge glowing red eyes.
It's not good.
Freaked me out so much, I ran screaming to my parents. But when my dad went to investigate, there was nothing there.
Typical.
In that same house as the red eyes incident, my mom would wake up in the middle of the night because she felt something was watching her in a dark shadow. My mom felt it was a female entity, would be standing over my mom looking down at her sleeping, and when my mom awoke, the figure would stand up and walk out of the room. My mom would follow but wouldn't see anything. At around 3 a.m, the living room would start to sound like a party was going on. This happened about twice a month. My mom is from Mexico, and she says that America has less magic than Mexico because we don't believe. I would agree with you.
Yeah.
She told me 2 stories about her father, uncle, and grandfather when they lived in Mexico in the 1920s and 1940s. My great-grandfather was a bounty hunter in the 1920s.
Crazy.
And was used to hard work and dangerous entanglements. He was hunting down this man that he wound up killing, but was arrested because the locals didn't know he was a bounty hunter. At night in the local jail, he felt a hand wrap around his neck and attempt to choke him. My great-grandfather said that it was the man he killed. Mexico in the 1940s was pretty rural, and often they couldn't use cars and just relied on horses. My great-uncle was stopping for the night, and he came across an abandoned shack. He decided to rest. Right away, he felt little tugs on his blanket. Feeling a little unsafe, he went outside to sleep. When he awoke, his blanket and saddle were gone, but his horse was still tied down. My mother said that he had come across duendes, which are elves.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, my grandmother and great-uncle were messing around with a magic book. The book said to draw a circle and chant some words. When they chanted the words, their light went out, and they heard these deep demonic breaths on the outside of the window. In the morning, they saw goat-like bipedal footprints. They buried the book the next morning, then went to confession to ensure nothing else happened.
There's some collection.
There's some magic down in Mexico.
We've had a few stories from down there.
Yeah, we've had stories of the little people too. The duende are like the south of the border kind of little people elf type situation.
I love the stories down there because they do seem to be more varied and more like intense in the way that like the supernatural beings or entities seem to have more, I don't want to, maybe power is the wrong word, but this world's more available to them. They seem to be more involved. Like, for example, like the ghost strangling her great-grandfather who had killed him. Like, there's a lot of accounts of that.
Energy. Culture's older, too, down there, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more superstitious.
Right. There's a lot more belief allowed to happen. And they do have a lot of open sort of like mixing of the dead. Festivals and people that they just tend to like think of it as more of like an interchangeable.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, the dead are not that far removed.
Right.
I wonder if it's because they're more connected to death and to the afterlife and to that sort of part of life. I wonder if that allows sort of more of these experiences to occur.
Well, that supernatural beliefs that are more widely had in that society, it creates almost this like a saturation of the ether with this belief that maybe entities can use to manifest.
Yeah,
that they can't hear in the stone material world of the United States.
Yeah, and they also have the most intense UFO experiences. I feel like there's
for sure
a lot
everything's
of
down there, man. Chupacabra.
You got everything.
I'm sure there's dogmen running around down there too.
Oh yeah,
all kinds of stuff. But yeah, thank you. Those were some pretty awesome little anecdotal stories there. Generation of stories. So thanks for that, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Some great stories today, guys.
Yeah,
definitely
really good stuff.
Yeah, we hope you guys dug these stories. We got plenty of more to get to on another day.
But keep sending them in, guys. We're starting an archive. So we appreciate everyone who's submitted and listened and enjoyed. And
yeah, when you send in a story, let us know if you're cool with us using your first and last name. If not, that's cool too. Also, let us know if you can where it happened and when, and because we'd like to start an archive on our website with witness experiences.
Yeah, more information the better.
Kind of a database.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Well, expansion level members of Patreon, check out the expansion episode coming up here. And for the rest of you listeners,
we're actually heading down to Texas for a little bit, so we'll be releasing this when we're actually down there. So
yeah,
cool. All right, guys.
So.
We'll have a good morning because that's, I'm sure, when most of you are listening.
What?
Joking.
Maybe 3 a.m. If you're a janitor in a dark hospital cleaning toilets at 3 a.m. listening to our podcast, we're sorry.
All right, guys. See you soon.
Bye.